Good morning. I've told this story before. Tony Campolo, who was a sociologist, a lecturer in sociology, who was also an evangelical preacher and teacher and author, and was one day walking down the main street of his town in what he called his establishment guard suit and tie and all that. And down a bit, he saw this guy wandering aimlessly on the street with a coffee. Obviously a homeless kind of guy who was grubby and filthy, and people were taking a wide berth and avoiding him. Anyway, Campolo's watching it, and as he's watching this guy, their eyes lock. And the man makes a beeline towards Campolo, and he thinks to himself, oh, this is going to cost me $5 at least. Anyway, he keeps walking, and the guy comes and stops right in front of him and thrusts out his coffee and says, "Hey, mister, you want a sip of me coffee?" And the last thing Campolo wanted was a sip of the coffee. The rim of the cup was already grubby and filthy, but being a nice Christian guy, he says, sure, and he takes the cup and turns it to the least grubby bit and pretends to take the biggest sip he can and takes this minimal amount and hands it back and says, "Hey, it's pretty good, but what's gotten into you today, sharing your coffee?" And the guy says, "Mister, I always believe when you get something good, you've got to share it. And today the coffee's pretty good, so I wanted to share it." And Campolo's thinking, this is gonna cost me. So he says, "Well, you've been pretty generous to me. How about, there must be something I can do for you." And the man goes, "Sure." And as Campolo's reaching for his wallet, he says, "You can give me a hug." And Campolo thinks, "I'd rather give you $5, but he looks at the man who's filthy clothes, torn and dirty, his beard is matted with food, and he gently wraps his hand around without touching the man and pats his back a few times. And then as he's pulling away, he feels two arms go round and pull him in. And then the guy rests his head on Campolo's shoulder, and he just stands there like that for what seems an eternity. And the time is passing on, and people are walking past and they're snickering and laughing, giving strange looks, and Campolo's feeling really embarrassed, wishing the earth would just open up and swallow him whole. But it doesn't. And the time goes on. The guy's still standing there hugging him. And then all of a sudden, words rattle down through the centuries, words that Campolo's read and spoken on before. "When I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me a drink. When I was sick or in prison, you visited me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was a homeless man on the main street of your city, you gave me a hug." And he realized that he was in the presence of Christ, that Christ was in this man. And that in giving this man a hug, he was indeed hugging the Christ. And this man was blessing him. Jesus says in the passage today, "If anyone receives you, they receive me. And whoever receives me receives the one who sent me." In receiving this man, Campolo receives Christ in this man. And this man hugging Campolo hugs Christ in him. God is in the midst of this, and there is blessing. Campolo was humbled through this experience. He felt the humility and vulnerability as people didn't understand and stared and gave kind of all sorts of difficult looks and horrible looks at him. They didn't understand. They didn't get it. But he received blessing, and he gave blessing. And I think this is what Jesus is calling us to do. Over the last few weeks, we've been reading through Matthew 10, and this strange or difficult chapter, where kind of Jesus is preparing the disciples to go out. He's been healing and caring and ministering in the towns and villages, and he prepares the disciples to go out in his name, to go out and heal the sick and cleanse the lepers and cast out evil and raise the dead and pray and bring blessing, and all these categories are important in their time, and things we might we might reinterpret in different ways in our own time. But it's really about healing and bringing wholeness and life where there's struggle and death and pain. To bring peace and blessing where there's loneliness and despair and whatever else. But he says, go, and where you're welcomed, stay, receive the hospitality, and bless the house that welcomes you. Bless them with peace and healing and wholeness. If you're not welcome, move on to the next town. You're not going to be welcomed everywhere. And in fact, you'll be rejected, and you'll struggle because people won't receive you. Like Campolo on the main street of the town getting these strange looks and disparaging comments and all the rest of it. You won't be accepted. But where you are, give blessing. This man was reaching out, trying to give people some of his coffee, which was very good today, and no one wanted it except Campolo, who was blessed. And I think this is what Jesus is on about. Inviting us into a way of being that is grounded in humility and vulnerability. We can have all our knowledge, all our books and knowledge and all the, the theology and whatever else it is, and mission and all our theories and our belief systems or our status, our money, our wealth. He says, don't take any of that stuff with you. Just go. Naked and vulnerable before the world. We have to learn this humility. I once worked with a fellow, Daryl. He ran the homeless men's hostel in Parramatta. He had deep Christian faith and saw his work in the hostel as part of his Christian ministry. And he listened to the blokes, listened to their stories, and sought to help them in any way he could. There were strong rules in the hostel to keep people safe, but Darryl was compassionate and caring and sought the best out for each of them as he could. And he did extra training and that to help himself be better. I remember him going away and I think he did some training, but he gave himself this extra experience. He gave the things he'd taken with him, extra clothes and stuff, to someone in mind. And for a week, he went out with just a little bit of cash in his pocket, some ID cards, and the clothes he wore, to experience life as best he could, like one of these clients, these blokes that would come into his hostel. In a strange city, he didn't know where to go. He was through the day feeling somewhat vulnerable and uncertain what's what. He found a hostel for homeless men and was taken in and paid for a few days. There he got breakfast and dinner, but they had to go out through the day, and he got hungry until he found a soup kitchen that would give him lunch. He walked around and he experienced in the hostel, some of the staff were really caring. They wanted to know who he was and listen to his story and treated him with dignity and respect. And that felt really good. He understood what that. But others were patronising and put him down and treated him as just one of those homeless blokes who needed a handout. And he felt patronised and humiliated. The whole experience was humbling for him. And he learned in that experience that he needed to be humble. That these blokes who were coming into his hostel were human beings. And it wouldn't take much for any of us to lose what we have and to be like one of those guys. For all of us in our lives, there are moments when we have deep need, where all that we own and think and know and our status and our career and our fame or whatever else means nothing. We're naked and vulnerable before the world, powerless. We need help. Now, Paul Musu, who runs Meals Plus for us in Parramatta, feeding 300 or 400 people a day, breakfast and lunch, he says, the hardest thing for people is to know where to find help, all sorts of help. And the second hardest thing is to ask for it when they need it. But when we reach out and receive one of those men, women, young people, old people, when we welcome them in, when we sit and hear their story and share their life, there's always something in them that is a blessing to us. And when we receive them and they receive us, Christ is in the midst. And something special happens because God is there, and it's grounded in love and reconciliation and hope and peace and relationship. And I think this is what Jesus is saying to his disciples, who and through him, Matthew's community. You are going to be rejected, and life is not going to be easy for you, but your calling is to go in love, to reach out to a world that needs love with the love of God. You don't need to take your fancy words or ideas. You need to take your humble heart, compassion, generosity, sharing. Take who you are and allow God to speak through you. Receive those who receive you. Welcome. Be blessing to each other. And God is in your midst. And anyone who gives, even these little ones, a glass of water will be blessed. It's a challenging passage in our society where status and wealth and power are idolized, where fame and being great is the goal of so much of our society. God invites us to be humbled, to recognize our naked vulnerability before the world, our need of grace and love, our need of healing and wholeness, our need of hope, that we feel powerless and impotent before the world, and we need God's grace. And we can't do it alone, we need each other. And to build this beloved community that is inclusive and loving, where we're not jealous of what other people can do, but we celebrate it, because what they can do benefits all of us. And we each bring who we are and share together. And in that is life, and in that is God, and in that is grace, and in that is hope for the world. Because we create a community that's loving and just, a community that reaches out and invites people in, a community that builds peace and relationship and delivers reconciliation and hope, and is non-violent and stands against that which is wrong in the world and speaks up the truth about love and justice and hope. And this is the way of God, the way we're invited into. When we receive others, when they receive us, Christ is in the midst. And there is grace, there is hope, there is faith and love. This is our invitation. Will you share in this journey with Jesus?